We are back with another episode of the College Football Review with you. I'm mastering that pointing the finger now. With you, week number 7 now behind us. Today is Sunday. I don't know when the heck you're going to get a chance to watch this. We're going to put it out there by Monday. So week 7 is now behind us. And as usual, I'm Trav, and that is Dimeskii. We'll be rolling with you for about the next 30 minutes, which we try to keep it most times. A 30-minute show, try to pack as much as possible. Try to pack as much as possible. Hey, I've been up all day and all night. Anyways, in this college football show, obviously so much going on just as well. What's going on today, Dimeskii?
Hey, what's going on, kid? We got a lot. We got firings, no hirings. We got injuries. Your boy, he gone. Hopefully, somebody Drew Lars out of here with that injury. So hopefully, maybe somebody can step up on the Penn State offense.
Man, there have been a lot of things going on with college football so far this season. We're now at week number 7. As we all know as college football people, this is all setting up the stage for the now expanded CFP college football playoffs of 12 teams now. So it opens up opportunities for other teams that might not have had the opportunity before. Now, this is steamrolling ahead. We look at the kickoff, week number 7. We kicked off the week. Typically, college football starts off on Thursday, but now when you get into October, you get those teams who start off on Wednesdays. And then later on, you'll probably get the MAC, which is typically starting off on a Tuesday. But I'm going to go to Friday because there's a game I had an interest in, and that was South Florida going out to North Texas and taking on North Texas, the Mean Green. And what happened out there, the reason why I talk about it is because I put some money on it, so I think it's worth saying something about it. South Florida goes out there and blows them up. Absolutely. I did pick South Florida, who was inexplicably a 1.5 point underdog on the road. I guess the undefeated record of North Texas made people think they would be better than what they are. I don't know what the deal was, but they ended up getting blown out. 63-36. Bynum Brown once again showing that he is a viable candidate, maybe even a Heisman Trophy candidate on a team that probably shouldn't be winning as much as it is. 245 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. He only threw 1 interception, but also led the team in rushing with 82 yards. So he had 2 touchdowns there. So he was pretty much the whole team as South Florida, the Bulls, can take their act on the road and win a game. And they were able to roll up 580 yards along the way. Any thoughts on that to start off this week number 7 my way?
Well, like you said, Byron Brown, he's doing pretty good already for the season. 1,286 passing yards and 11 TDs and only 4 interceptions. So he's doing pretty good, and he's hitting his man wide receiver Chim Nimrod for 421 receiving yards and 4 TDs. And he's getting support from his running back, Sam Franklin, 7.2 yards per carry. So he's got a good little supporting cast with him.
Yeah, we saw this South Florida team in the beginning of the season. They beat Boise State, a team that went to the playoffs last year. This time they didn't have Ashton Jeanty, who's now with the Las Vegas Raiders. But I don't think people bought into it until they went to the Swamp and beat the Gators, an in-state battle, but they still beat the Gators. The Gators aren't as good this season as people might have thought. At the same time, the Gators have probably the hardest schedule in all of college football. They did go down to Miami and play Miami, got blown out, but we're now realizing this Miami team ain't your cane from the last 15 years. This is a legitimately good team that has a real chance of going to the national championship or even being champions of all of that. As you can see, we have our playbook on the side. Not only does it kick off week number 7, we're talking about we're fired up. Well, we're not fired up. We're just fired up to talk about those who continue to get fired. So far this season, there have been a plethora, nice word, plethora of coaches who have been fired from their jobs, no longer with the team. Mike Gundy was one of those. Deshaun Foster was one of those. Brent Pryor from Virginia Tech was one of those. It goes on and on. So now we add even more. James Franklin, the head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions, they lose their 3rd straight game. We'll talk about them maybe a little bit later, but nevertheless, he loses his job as they lose their third game and their quarterback, Drew Aller, whatever they want to call him. Still claiming he's a first-round draft pick with the NFL. I still doubt it. Didn't do much there, but in any event, he's fired from the Penn State Nittany Lions. Is it a surprise? I don't know. I don't know what to say, really, because he was 104-45 record-wise. That's nearly a 70% winning percentage for the time he was at Penn State. That's pretty damn good. But I guess when you're losing 3 games and you were in the playoffs last year and there were so many expectations this season, you get fired when you don't live up to those expectations, not even halfway through the season. Well, just about halfway through the season.
Yeah. The Nittany Lions, once ranked number 2 in the preseason, dropped 3 straight games, falling to Oregon in overtime, losing to a winless UCLA team, and then finally to a Northwestern team that they was favored to win by 20 points. And like you said, Drew Aller, he was hurt with a leg injury, and he was playing so. And you know, Franklin's buyout is reportedly over $49 million. The exact terms is to be, you know, renegotiated, but Terry Smith, longtime assistant, will be taking over. So we'll see how that going. Like you said, he had 104 wins and 45 losses in his tenure, and won the Big Ten title and reached the CFP semifinals. But he had high expectations for the season, and I think he disappointed the people in charge. So he's out of here. Unfortunate for him.
It's the boosters. It's the boosters. Once you disappoint the boosters, no one can save you. The AD, the president, none of them. This is college football. The boosters run everything. Let's get that straight. No matter where you are, wherever you go, those powerhouse teams, especially the boosters, pretty much make a lot of those moves. And I wouldn't say it's completely disappointing, because you know what? You get these high-profile jobs that have these ridiculous expectations, even though they can be realistic, and you don't live up to them. If it wasn't him getting fired, it would have been somebody else getting fired who didn't live up to the expectation. So it's not a huge surprise. It's just that, hey, man, who would have expected? And then, of course, him losing the game and his team losing the game, him losing his job because of it. We talk about Trent Bray of Oregon State. A different story, different time. The deal here is Oregon State started off 0-7. They lost to Wake Forest in their latest loss. So that kind of put the writing on the wall for Oregon State, who hasn't been really formidable or even decent over the past several years. Now, I remember they did get their act together for a few years, if not a whole lot of years, coming out of the 90s when they were just absolutely putrid. I remember the days when they finally started getting it together with Ken Simonton at the running back spot. And, of course, everybody who watches college football or even knows a little bit or a lot about the NFL, you know, Steven Jackson came from there. I remember Derek Anderson as their quarterback, James Newsom as the wide receiver. So they had those good plays that made the program better. And it was better or good for their standards. It's just that it's dropped flat on its face. And I think all of this more so because of what's going on with realignment, being in the Pac-12, building a new Pac-12, all of this, I don't know, tumultuous goings on in the Oregon State program. They want a little bit more stability and a little bit more knowing where they're heading as they look, you know, to kind of readjust to the Pac-12 when the new Pac-12 is formed. Right now, you know, there are teams that are coming in, you know, and they're lesser teams than the ones who have left. But, you know, I think they want stability and want to start off on the right foot. In their opinion, Trent Bray wasn't that one they were going to start off on the right foot with. I'm not going to say ironically, but truthfully, you know, he's an alumnus of Oregon State. He played with them back in 2002. So he was a linebacker that played defense, but offense is one of the worst. Their defense is one of the worst, and therefore he was fired. So let's move on to some of the big games, because there were some big dog games. But before we talk about those big dog games, let's talk about the undefeated team. The one undefeated team no one talked about as being undefeated, because probably they're not. Florida State, the 3-3 undefeated team. And the reason why you talk about them being undefeated, even though they're 3-3 now after losing their latest game yesterday against a true freshman quarterback in Pittsburgh, coming down here to the state of Florida, beating them in Tallahassee, Doak Campbell Stadium, Bobby Bowden Field, is because Tommy Castellanos, the former Boston College quarterback who has transferred to Florida State, has a problem running his mouth. He runs this mouth, diarrhea of the mouth, as they call it. He came from Boston College. He talked a lot of nonsense about Alabama. Guess what? He backed up that nonsense when he ended up playing Alabama in the first game of the season. And then they end up losing to Virginia. He says, wow, we didn't really lose that game. We beat ourselves. Then they get blasted by Miami. If Miami didn't let them come back into the game wouldn't have been that close. They were getting stomped out. Well, once again, we beat ourselves. Miami didn't beat us. So I guess yesterday, when Pittsburgh comes down here with a brand new true freshman quarterback who just started last week and now this week, it's the same story. So I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. The undefeated Florida State Seminoles at 3-3 lose again to Pittsburgh. Mason Henschel, their new quarterback, true freshman, played well last season. In fact, they benched Eli Holstrom, the former Alabama Crimson Tide transfer who transferred to Pittsburgh, had an excellent season last season in the beginning, kind of mellowed out, obviously not playing very good this season because Mason gets the job. 321 yards, he did throw 2 picks, but he did get 2 touchdowns. Everything worked out for those Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, the Pitt Panthers did good. FSU defense gave up 230 rushing yards, and Chandler Morris threw in 3 interceptions. They were momentum killers, but Pitt freshman QB Mason, the Germans was out Heinschel, and Mason Heinschel,
yeah,
showed poise, especially on third downs.
Being a true freshman, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we're in the age now where true freshmen coming out of high school, not too many months before the season started, and they're playing well. I mean, quarterback is the one that has the highest burden, I think, coming into the college football season, learning the playbook, knowing the differences between what was going on in high school and what's going on now as a collegiate player. A lot different, the speed of the game, depending on which conference, but nevertheless, it's faster than anything you've ever seen in college. You could go to one of the worst teams. You can go to Kent State. And there's still a difference between what you did your state championship team in high school and what you're going to see against Kent State or playing with Kent State, one of the worst teams in the country, one of my 3 worst teams in the country, I believe, just from looking and watching them play. Kent State is one of the worst, but the reason why they're not the worst is because they beat UMass yesterday, who is the worst. And then you have Charlotte stumbling out there when they get their opportunities. 3 of the worst teams in the country. Either way, Pitt wins the game, and we move on from there.
Yeah. So where we going? We in Indiana?
Yeah, we're going to move on to the Indiana because that was the biggest game of the week. Indiana went to Eugene, Oregon to take on the Oregon Ducks. The number 2 Oregon Ducks the number 3 Oregon Ducks. I forgot the Miami Hurricanes jumped over them when they were idle and the Miami beat Florida State. Nevertheless, Oregon at home against Indiana. I tell you what, I mean, I had Fernando Mendoza as a Heisman Trophy candidate. I know I do my Heisman Trophy candidacy on here. I picked 4 players, and he's been on that list from the very beginning. Not playing so much like a Heisman Trophy candidate this past game, but certainly doing enough in this game, 30 for 20, 215 yards, threw a touchdown. Dante Moore, on the other hand, who was allegedly one of the other Heisman Trophy candidates, he wasn't mine. Certainly not showing that he's Heisman Trophy ready. And because of that, Indiana on the road beats Oregon, snapping their home winning streak, etc. Damn, what's going on?
Yeah, Indiana's defense played discipline, zone coverage, forcing Oregon's QB into check downs and late throws. The Ducks, known for up-tempo and vertical threats, were held to under 300 total yards. Oregon entered as a playoff hopeful, but Indiana win wasn't luck. It was a tactical ambush.
Yeah, absolutely, because this team here, and I tell you, Kirk Cignetti, their coach, what more can you say about that when you look at back in his days with Elon, one of those schools you don't win at, and he did lose a game there, but he did go on an 8-game winning streak with Elon, and then he goes to James Madison, which is one of the better teams in college football, at least 1AA when they were there. Now they come to the 1A ranks, and they're still playing pretty damn solid when they're here. So he's just unfortunately for him or for Indiana, that's not going to be a lifetime job for him because he coaches so well. He's going to go to one of those power jobs eventually as those power jobs do open up. And, and he's going to deserve it. And you're going to see how he does those kinds of things the same way Kalen DeBoer did the same thing. He coached at NAIA, then he coached at Fresno. Then now he's coaching. Went to Washington, now Alabama. Had a little bit of a bump in the road, but he's kind of getting his sea legs now, playing on this major, huge level. But let's go back to Indiana for a second. Elijah Surratt made himself a first-round draft pick in the NFL if he wasn't already, with 8 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Looking very good. And Indiana's front 7, dominant. I've watched Indiana this year, but I guess I didn't pay attention too much to that front 7 because I thought they were doing what they were supposed to do against lesser teams. Now they're playing the better teams, and they're doing a lot of the same. They absolutely obliterated whatever Oregon was trying to do on the ground yesterday. 6 sacks against that Oregon offense, which is pretty much high tipple, up tipple, had some decent running yards, but kept them to 267 total yards. That's Oregon we're talking about. In losses, they still get 400 and 500 yards. Now they're at home, can't even crack 300 yards, and they lose. And just as important, and which is also a microcosm of how the game was going with this front 7 being as dominant, they kept them to 3 for 14 on third down, which is absolutely insane. Props and more props to Indiana. There are 2 teams I probably, if I'm a Canes fan like I am, and I think the Canes could be the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State is still there just because they're the defending champs and they can play as well. We'll talk about them a little later. But man, to think about what's going on with Indiana and Texas Tech, I'm thinking those 2 teams are probably teams a lot of these other teams out there who are so-called name brand conventional teams or traditional teams don't want to see when the time comes in the playoffs.
Yeah, they don't want to see those guys. Those guys are playing really well right now. Real solid football. The brand of football they're putting on the field is good, and they look like contenders, and they definitely securing a spot for the upcoming playoffs.
Yeah, and Indiana, certainly Texas Tech. And I'm happy for those teams because those aren't the football schools. In fact, I think even Texas Tech is a basketball school, even going back to when Ray with Coach Knight went there. I was going to say Ray Knight, the baseball player. But when Coach Knight from Indiana went down there and started coaching, they became more of a basketball school, not even football anymore. Mike Leach had that crazy passing game going on years ago, and we all know about that for those who watch college football, but damn, they are now back. They are a legitimate football playing school in Indiana. I love just the same thing. A football playing school. Now, I know it's always going to be basketball up there, always in the Hoosier State, but basketball can probably wait a little longer as football takes the stage now. Basketball doesn't come until November anyhow for these college players. And speaking of teams that have decent basketball teams, but football rules the roost, let's talk about those Alabama Crimson Tide, who went down to take on an undefeated Missouri team. And Ty Simpson, my number 1, so I'm spoiler alert, number 1 Heisman Trophy candidate, 27 with he went 24 for 27, I think. Oh, actually, no, the score was 27-14. Ty went 23 for 31, threw for 200 yards, but his efficiency, his timing, when he steps up and the plays that he makes when he needs to make them, threw 3 touchdowns. And I tell you another thing I need to come to Jesus on. Cam Miller, the running back for Alabama, who I've been given some grief talking about how he's nothing special. And I think he's much better than I expected or much better than I thought. Because you look at him play, and I got a chance to watch him every game now this season, the games that he played because he missed the first 2 games. He has the fast twitch. He has the power. He has the balance. So he does a lot of the things that a lot of the special backs do. And because Alabama is now winning along with that, he's going to get more looks, at least from people like me who didn't give him credit to begin with. The NFL, they're the ultimate arbiter of how good or bad he really is, and I think they're going to think he's just as good. Unfortunately, it was a brutal game for those who might have watched it. There were a lot of players getting knocked out of that game, particularly Alabama players, and Cam Miller was one of those players. He was knocked out after getting 85 yards on the day. But Alabama was still able to pull it off.
Yeah, Alabama 31, Missouri 17. It looked, the battle of the unbeatens. You thought it would be a little bit closer, but Ty Simpson continues to evolve. His pocket presence, his timing, his intermediate routes were elite, and Missouri's defense couldn't generate no pressure, and Bama's O-line dominated the trenches.
So Alabama, by the way, that game was 27-24. That's the score of the game was 27-24. Alabama ended up pulling it out. And, and that wasn't a slouch Missouri team. I think they might have been a tad bit overrated, but as far as their front seven goes and their offensive line, a physical bunch. And it goes back to what I was saying about players getting knocked out of the game. Cam Miller, the most notable player getting knocked out of that game for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were able to get themselves 4 sacks against Alabama, but that's more of a testament of Ty Simpson still being able to keep his poise and finding the receivers when he needs to. Ryan Williams did not play yesterday, so he just had to throw to whoever was open. He found the plays still. Doesn't matter. Ty Simpson, in my opinion, the best quarterback in college football right now because he's playing every week against top competition. Some of these quarterbacks get a week off or even 2 weeks off or they pad their stats along the way before the real competition hits. But then, they kind of look ordinary. A little bit of Fernando Mendoza playing against Oregon on the road, even though his team won. Didn't look spectacular, but didn't hurt himself badly in terms of saying he's just no good. Yeah. He's still a good, very good quarterback. It's just that Ty Simpson, he's looking good while playing against the good teams, and he's looking better by playing against the teams that are very good. So that's why he's the number one on my list. But at the same time, Alabama still, we talked about it last week, bend but don't break defense in terms of the run. They gave up 163 yards rushing again, but they still get the win on the road.
Absolutely.
So we got to burn through this, as I say. I try to keep it at 30 minutes, so we're going to try to fly through it, but still give you a little bit of depth with what we're talking about. That way we can go to Ohio State, the number one team in the country, going on the road to play against Illinois. I don't think Ohio State has been given that much credit lately because they haven't played the big dog teams. And luckily for them, they're able to play the teams they played and able to gel with whatever they had, knowing their quarterback left from last season. So now they get a chance to kind of now get in the conference play well on the road against the Illinois team. They made Luke Altmaier look pretty doggone ordinary. Don't let those final numbers of 248 yards passing fool you. He still threw a touchdown and an interception, but the way Luke has been playing for most of the year, definitely impressive. But Ohio State defensively was able to handle him for a little bit, and they were able to keep them to 47 yards rushing. They had 4 sacks. They was all over the place. Just insane. Their quarterback, probably nothing special right now. Maybe later on, Jeremiah Smith, the supernova from last season, true freshman, now true sophomore, not stepping up as much because I don't believe he has the quarterback to do that in his second year as he had in his first year, but he still gets 42 yards and had a touchdown there and less than 8 yards a carry per catch. So that's telling you how they're limiting him, but he's still making the plays when he needs to make them.
Yeah, watching Jeremiah out there, he's so smooth when you watch him play. Like when the ball goes his way and it's right on point, it looks real easy for him, but like Julian saying, he's that I'm enjoying Julian. He's my man. Julian, you know what I'm saying? Threw for 4 TDs and the Buckeye defense just let 3 first downs, gave just up 3 first downs in that second half. So and they haven't given up a touchdown in the red zone this whole season. That defense is on point for the number one team.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's why I keep them at number one until someone proves otherwise. I give them the respect as the defending champs, even though this is college football and the same players who were there the previous season aren't there this season, and all that comes with it is all going to play out in the wash anyway as the season goes on. And now the expanded playoffs, we'll see exactly what happens there. But Ohio State still letting you know that they are the GAN when they need to be the GAN. They're just a dominant team still at this point. We'll see as time goes on. And so as time goes on, we talk about the oldest rivalry in the South. Georgia and Auburn get together. Auburn up by 10-0. But of course, it ends in Georgia's favor again. I think Hugh Freeze, the coach of Auburn, might be another one that's on the roasting seat because he came in with a hot seat. Now I think he might be jumping off that hot seat, man. All he needs to do is lose to Alabama. They can just put a lid on it. But yeah, they lost to Georgia in their battle down here in the South. And, once again, I said Auburn was up 10-0. Then all of a sudden, Georgia comes back 20-10. This is not a special Georgia team. Gunnar Stockton is not a special quarterback. He's good for what they're doing now, but I think when there's a better team in front of them, they're going to have their problems. Gunnar did get 212 yards passing. He did run for 26 yards at a touchdown. the running game at Georgia is going to be the death of them when they start playing these better teams who can stop the run and who can stop the pass. Doesn't look good for them. But Auburn, being Auburn, they were sacked 10 times against Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. This time they have 11 penalties for a football field plus of yardage, contributing to their loss. Another reason why Hugh may be joining the soup kitchen line soon enough.
Yeah. That final 28-24 Auburn, it's like you said, that coach is on the hot seat. We say it every week that a high profile team, when they lose particular games, that coach seat, it starts, that match is lit under their seat. And I don't know, we'll see how he looks in the next game. He may be the next casualty of this college football season. Georgia's defense gave up 200 rushing yards, but they did the clutch red zone stops to save the day.
And that's exactly what it's going to be for them, because I don't think they have anything special about this team. And we've gotten used to seeing Georgia with a special team defensively when they won the national championships, with running backs when they won a national championship again. This time, not so much in terms of the overall talent, or at least developed a talent right about now. So there's another coach out there who might not have to worry about a hot seat. In fact, doesn't at all. That's Lane Kiffin taking on Washington. The reason why I even mentioned this game, they only won 24-21, and it did cost them in the rankings. They dropped down quite a bit in the rankings. I'll name those rankings a little bit later, at least in my opinion. But yes, Ole Miss, 24-21, Trinidad Chandler, someone we've mentioned on here a couple of times. In fact, you've mentioned him a couple of times, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. But Washington State, 127 rushing yards. But Ole Miss still gets the win. They're going to go drop like they should drop, but they're still going to get this together. They're allowed to have a bit of a mulligan, so they'll get their chances to get it back together and be back on the scene.
Yeah, Ole Miss is doing their thing, but we'll see how they go. I didn't I lost my little paperwork on them.
Don't even worry about that, because we got to hurry up anyway. I try to get this done in 30 minutes and try to pack as much as I can within the 30 minutes. So that way we can go to the Red River Rivalry. When things are going good, they're going good. But this isn't one of those years. Arch Manning is a garbage can, and we've seen that. We've witnessed that. And then John Mateer comes back from his hand surgery, and he decides to join him on trash day as well. I didn't know the garbage man picked up trash on Saturdays. I thought Tuesdays and Thursdays and some days in between would be the time that he does it. He went and picked up 2 trash cans, but somebody had to win. Texas beats Oklahoma 23-6. I never really thought Oklahoma was that great, but we all knew Texas wasn't. But we also know that rivalry is the reason why the game should be tougher than they really are, just like a lot of other high-profile rivalries. And Texas, 23-6, Manning 166 yards. We're not even looking for anything. They're looking for anything from him anymore because we don't expect it. But John Mateer comes back. He throws some yards, but he also throws a lot of picks. 3 picks. 5 sacks by Texas. They harassed him. They picked him off. They jumped him. They kicked him. They stabbed him, and game over. So we can move away from the Red River Rivalry. A lot of blood in that river, so not even talk about that. We can move on from there. The reason why, because there are better games to talk about than the Red River Rivalry. That wasn't even a rivalry, only because it had a name, but the players just didn't show up for the rivalry. Texas Tech beating Kansas. Texas Tech being one of those teams I was talking about a little earlier, along with Indiana. 2 teams you might not want to see in the college football championships, whether it was a 12-team playoff or less. That team is the damn good team right now. 42-17. And as we've talked about a little earlier this season, Baron Morton goes down. Guess who comes in? Will Hammond. He comes in. He throws a touchdown. No, he actually didn't throw a touchdown. He threw a pick, but he did run for 2 touchdowns. But Cameron Dickey was the man in this one. He ran for 263 yards. Come on, including a 71-yarder. Definitely put it down. Texas Tech had 9 sacks, so you show you got defenses on fire. And Kansas just rushed for 74 yards, making it a little easier for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, it is. But like we said before, he came in for the starter again, and he did his thing. That's Will the Whip Hammond. It looks like when it's time for him to take over, that Texas Tech is going to be in good hands. And Dickey did his thing, running all over him. He bust that big yard as soon as the first time he touched the ball. He ran for 71 yards and opened the game up. and Hammond held it down once the starter went out. So Texas Tech is going to be like we said earlier, team to watch out in these playoffs.
Absolutely. Indiana and Texas Tech teams might not want to deal with, but let's get through this because I know we're going to go a little bit over 30 minutes, but who cares? It's the show. We can do what we want. So let's go ahead and get these Heisman Trophy candidates, at least for me. My top 4 players as it stands right now: Ty Simpson of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
I agree.
He overtook Fernando Mendoza. I know people have Carson Beck on their list. I don't. And I'm a Kane fan. I know Kane fans would probably assassinate me if they knew and found out where I was and saying those kinds of things. Jaden Maeva for USC, certainly another one of those quarterbacks. He could win a game as a quarterback, and he did that at home yesterday against Michigan. So he is one of those top quarterbacks in the country. And of course, being that homer, being that Kane fan that I am, somebody on defense has to show up. And guess who that person is? Ruben Bain of the Miami Hurricane, the Pain Bain, number 4 in our hearts, number 1 in the NFL draft, probably in 2026. He's on my list. So let's go with our dynamite dozen. We're going to start off from 12 down. Tennessee is number 12, even though they had their problems yesterday with Arkansas, but that is SEC play. Georgia is number 11. And then Oregon tumbles all the way down, at least in my list, to number 10. And then LSU at number 9. In fact, I probably could have put Oregon over LSU, but Oregon lost more recently than LSU, so LSU kind of stays there. And then we have Ole Miss, and then Alabama. And then Texas is in the house, Texas Tech, that is. Texas A&M, who I should have talked about because of the Gator game yesterday, but the Gators aren't ranked either, so why talk about that game? The 12th man won that game for them. And then number 3, we have Indiana, who is in the house, certainly jumping on top after beating the number 3 team in the country. So why not replace that number 3 team with yourselves? And then my Canes, number 2. And then we have the undefeated, undisputed, reigning defending champions of the world, the Ohio State Buckeyes, sitting there at number 1 for another week. And until they can play somebody of merit, I'll tell you what, man, this year here, it might not be so easy for them to beat Michigan, even though Michigan is not the team that they normally are. That team last year was able to beat them. I think they can do it again this year. Let's see what happens. Nevertheless, he is Dimeskii. I'm Trav. And our conversation with you is coming to a close. Week number 7. We'll see you with week number 8 next week. Until then, later.